Hello and welcome. My name is Céline and today I'll be going through what I have in my knitting kit. Some of my most asked questions are: what needles do you use? Where can I get that pink Notion box from? And what brand are those stitch markers? So I thought I would dedicate an entire video to those tools and accessories that make my knitting experience that bit more pleasant and comfy. The background is different for this occasion. I'm actually back home visiting my parents in Milan for the week, so this is where we'll be hanging out today. Once I'm done taking you through my knitting kit, I will also do a Q&A. The other day I asked you guys if you had any knitty questions on my Instagram stories, so stay tuned for that later on. I'm also wearing a sweater that isn't mine. I'm borrowing this from my mom, but this is the Clotilde sweater by Knitting for Olive that I knitted her for Christmas last year, and I made it in 2 strands of heavy merino, and it's so pretty. Every time I try it on when I'm back home, I kind of want to make it for myself. So what do we think? Should I go for it? I have all my tools in this basket, so let's jump right in. I will not save the best for last. I'll give you the best right away. Let's talk about my holy grail knitting needle set. The one that I reach out to first, the one that I finally found and settled on after trying a bunch of other ones. Chances are you'll find me knitting with these needles, unless there are some weird circumstances by which I have to go into my secondary stash of needles. This is the Like Naturale 5-inch interchangeable needle set, and I have the case in the shade Beige Jute. Everything that I'll be mentioning today, by the way, will be linked down in the description box. Ta-da! These are the needles. I'm so sorry a couple pairs are missing, but they're just on my whips. Absolute beauties. So we've got 12 pairs ranging from 3.5 millimeters, which is a US 4, and it goes up to 12 millimeters, which is US 17. The case actually has a Velcro feature where you can prop up your needles and set them up like a makeup artist does with makeup brushes. And here we have all the cords and the needle stoppers and all the little tools that go hand in hand with your needles. The cords are clear, which is my personal preference. I just think it looks nice and neat. And then they're really flexible, but not to the point where they're too delicate and you feel like they're gonna break any second, like some other cables I've tried in the past. I just think they provide the perfect balance between malleability and sturdiness. These are also swivel cords, which in my experience is an absolute must when it comes to circular needles. If you don't know what a swivel cord is, it's when the cable and the needle twist independently of each other. And that means, first of all, that the needle won't unscrew from the cable, but then it's just way more comfortable. Your stitches will lie across your cable in a nice natural way. It won't twist constantly and you won't have to adjust all the time. So it just provides a really comfortable knitting experience if you have a swivel cord. The stoppers are also clear, and then these are the keys. They look like any knitting key, nothing special about those. Let me know if you're team wooden needle or metal needle. I guess having this set may suggest that I'm on team wooden needle. However, I'm a big believer that different fibers lend themselves to different needles. Most of the time, I would say that my wooden needles feel nice and comfortable and are appropriate and compatible with like 90% of fibers out there. But there are those instances where I naturally feel like I need to reach out for a metal needle. For example, when I was designing my Sadie top, that's knitted on 6.5 millimeter needles with 1 strand of mohair, which is tricky, especially when you cast on in the first couple of rounds. It's just so hard to do it on wooden needles, but that's just the properties of the fiber. So, in those sorts of instances, metal needles are also great. When it comes to investing in a full set of knitting needles, I highly endorse it. If you know that you commit to knitting, even as a beginner, I think this makes sense. First of all, financially, it just turns out to be cheaper buying a full set from the get-go rather than gradually accumulating one needle size at a time. That's just going to be more expensive. But then it's just so handy to have more needle sizes available to you. In the long run, it just saves time and money. To go with that, I have the cutest 3.5-inch set from the exact same line by Like. It's the Naturale, and yeah, they go together. They're very cute together. This one was kindly gifted to me by Knitting Fever, who distribute all the Like needles, which, by the way, are so many. Do you want pink needles? They have a whole hot pink set. Do you want gray ones, green ones? They have it all. This is one of those things that's not essential to your existence, but once you try it, you don't want to live life without it, you know? It's just so much easier to have this. I think it's also such a good cherry on top of the cake for someone like me, who's obviously super committed to knitting and has been knitting for a while. It just makes life that much easier. So let's see what's inside. She also has a magnetic button. She doesn't have a pocket. She's too tiny for that, okay? Also missing one pair because it's on my whip, but look at her. She's very, very cute and adorable. We have 9 pairs that range from US size 3 up to 10.5, which is 3.25 millimeters up to 6.5 millimeters. Another button closure with all the cords and all the tools. For me, these come in handy when I'm working on sleeves. Without fail, all my sleeves are at that awkward circumference when I can just about stretch all the stitches around my 5-inch circulars, but it's just so uncomfortable. I just really need to spread them out and everything's really taut. Whereas this just makes it so comfy and natural. They rest nicely and it just makes it better. I almost enjoy being on Sleeve Island working with these. I mentioned earlier that I have a secondary stack of needles, and that's comprised of the needles that I started out knitting with. I only found my Like needles, I want to say less than a year ago. So before that, I was working with the following. In my cute cherry needle case from the Knitting Swan, I have the first needles that I've ever purchased. These metal needles right here are from a Drops, I think it's called something like the Essential set or something. It's very cheap, basic set from Drops. These metal needles are the needles with which I learned how to knit, so I have an emotional attachment to them. I still use them to this day when I feel like I need a metal needle. What I really like about these is that they are compatible with Knit Pros and Likes, so I just mix and match and use my Like cables on these because the original cables for these needles are not swivel cords and they are really, really uncomfortable to work with. So that's my critique about that set. I still have those cords all in here, but I don't really reach out for them. I have a random 3mm pair because the set from Drops only started at 3.5. And then also here we can see all my DPNs, 2.5s, 3, 3.5s, 4, and 5. They're all random because I got them at different times from different places. I want to say these are Drops or Knit Pro. No idea. Knit Pro, Knit Pro. And these are from my Hooks and Needles box. I have this month's Hooks and Needles box here with me, and this is actually a really good way in which I build my knitting kit. Every month I get new handy tools and accessories to add to my set. Very often I'll get tools that I don't have in my kit, so that was the case for these 5mm DPNs. Since we're here, I wanted to show you what's in the box. It honestly feels like Christmas every time I open these boxes. In fact, I'm pretty sure they're doing Black Friday and Christmas bundles on their website. This is the crochet box. I also receive the knitting box every month. All my crochet hooks have a rubber handle and they're just not as nice as the crochet hooks that I get in this box, which have a beautiful wooden handle. There are 3 skeins of yarn. I'm always really impressed by the quality of this yarn. This one specifically comes from Portugal, but they all come from Europe. Here's the booklet with 3 patterns, which are super easy to follow because it's all photographs. Then I got some nice sharp darning needles, crane scissors, which I'm very happy to be adding to my kit today. You can never have too many scissors. If you're interested in the Hooks and Needles box, I actually have a discount code for us knitty friends, so I'll leave that on the screen, but I'll also leave a link in my description that you can click to get 20% off your first box. Back to our needle case. Those were all the needles, and then at the back we have bigger pockets, and I keep my cords that I don't use from the original Drop set, the non-swivel cords, but also I keep some shorties, some sock needles in here. And a lot of people ask me where my sock needles are from, so let's get those out. Most of my sock needles are the Addi Sock Wander needle. This is what they look like. They have 1 shorter needle and 1 longer one. I like these needles, however, I wish they were sharper. The fact that they're blunt has hindered my knitting in the past on certain projects. I've heard that the Chiagu sock needles are super sharp, and I know for a fact I would love that. Some people have actually told me that they don't like that about their Chiagu sock needles, that they're so sharp. So I guess it comes down to your personal preference. I look for sharpness in my sock needles, which these Addi ones don't really give me, but I have a bunch of them. They're good enough, so I make them work. These ones, which I'm pretty sure are Knit Pros, these are a bit different, a little bit sharper. A random, I think this is 6mm shorty, 3.5 inch. that I got at the very beginning when I was knitting sleeves, and the stitches weren't enough to go around my 5 inches. So in the other pocket, I have more stoppers, tapestry needles, stitch holders that I got from the Petite Knit website. Not my favorite, but you know, gotta use them sometimes. The last needle case I have is this Petite Knit one, and in here I keep all my C-knits and my really chunky needles. Here they are. So these small ones are my C-knits. The first 4 sizes were from a set that I got, and then individually I got the 6mm ones, and I also have some 2.75s. I was hearing so many people talk greatly about their C-knit needles, so I really wanted to try them for myself, and my initial experience was really positive. I really liked the bamboo tips. I thought that they were the right level of sharp. In the beginning, I was so obsessed with the cable because it was a swivel cord, it was clear, but also it was really thin and so pliable, more than the Like. Very, very soft cables, and it was just so comfy to knit on them. Unfortunately, this flexibility meant that the cords are so incredibly delicate. I've had, I think, 2 cables snap on me where the actual clear cord just breaks off of this screw part, which is super sad because C-knits are expensive and you don't want to be replacing your cable that often. My drops cables that are super cheap and that I've had for 4 years, none of them has ever snapped off. Additionally, the C-knit cables aren't compatible with any other brands. They only work for C-knits, and I can't interchange them with my Likes or my Knit Pros or my drops. And not only, you can't use the same cable for all needle sizes. There is one size cable that fits for a range of sizes, for example, from 3.5s to 5s. But for example, if you want to use a 6mm tip, you're going to need a different type of cord. The cables come with different size screws. So you'll be working on your 5mm needle using this screw, and then if you want to change your tip to 6, you can't just unscrew and attach a new tip. You'll have to change the whole cable for that, which to me is such a fuss. The whole point of interchangeable needles is that you can use any cord on any tip, and that kind of limits it in this case with the C-knits. That being said, the actual knitting experience on C-knits is really, really wonderful. I guess you have to weigh out your priorities. Some people may be able to justify having to deal with the issues that I listed if it means that then the knitting experience is so, so good. Over here we have my chunky wooden needles from Drops. I used these to make my first ever sweater, and I had a great time with them. I still use them if I need 12mm needles, or is this 15? They're really good, actually. Crane scissors, because as I said, you can never have too many scissors. A pink tape measure. In the last compartments, I have 2 cable needles, which I've never used because I never knit cables. Oh my gosh, I should knit a cabled sweater. In the bigger back pockets, we have a load of stoppers. This needle case has a zipper that goes along the whole top half of the case with 3 individual compartments, and that's where I keep my C-knit cables. This is going to be my favorite part. This is the last element to my knitting kit, and it's my notions. So this is my beloved cherry notion pouch from the Knitting Swan. I love Knitting Swan products because they are so well made. They're super sturdy and obviously thought out to be for knitters, which I love. This is what it looks like. It has 2 little pockets, and in the first one we have a nice compact tape measure. This is from Knit and Note. And then my love, my Kohana mini snips. I've shown this many times, but I just cannot get over her. It's so cute. In the main pocket we have the infamous notion box. So basically my friend Claire showed up one day and she had this. She opened it up and there were so many little notions, and I said, that's the perfect container ever. So now I have it as well, and we twin because she also has a notion pouch like mine. So shout out to Claire, she's the reason why this exists. For those of you who have not seen this before, it's a magnetic box. It's actually a supplement box that you can get on Amazon. I'll put the link in the description, but it's just the perfect container for notions. Let's look into my highlights of this. In the bigger compartment, I keep my tapestry needles, my cable connectors, and my keys to tighten my needles, but I also have the Eiffel Tower in there. If you've seen my Paris vlog, I got the stitch marker from Little Weasel Yarn Shop. Over here we have my balloon dog stitch markers. I got these from La Lana here in Italy. A variety of shades and they're very cute. I feel like these are my most used charm markers. I don't know, I love them and I love pairing the colors of the marker to the actual project. In the next compartment, we have some hand embroidered stitch markers from Bubbles and Bear. They're really cute hand embroidered markers. And it was actually a set of 5, but 2 of them have broken on me. So these are the ones that broke. It's a little acorn and a mushroom. Sadly, there is an engineerical situation here. You can see that the way the charm is attached to the ring, easily snappable. As a knitter, you may think that removable markers are more of a crochet thing, but they actually come in handy for certain patterns. You need removable markers, so I have a bunch of those and I collect them from my clothing whenever I buy something new. And there's one of these on the tags. I'll just pop it in my Notion box. From Beautiful Knitters, I got these really cute cats. They're so adorable. I think my favorite's this one. Another highlight, some progress keepers from Hooks and Needles, and these are insane. We've got a Singer sewing machine, a tapestry needle, some scissors, and a ruler, and I've got a bunch more, but these are my favorites. These specifically are from Hand Dyed Harmony, so we have the hot air balloon. We also have this beautiful one, which is my favorite. It's like a white lacquered sewing machine. It's so pretty. And remember, all the links to everything is in my description. Those were my top picks from my Notion box. Please let me know, what are your favorite stitch markers? What are your favorite needles as well, right? Because that's like the main thing with knitting. You gotta know what needles people are using. I'm curious to know what things in your knitting kit are a must for you and which ones you would like to recommend to everyone watching. One thing that I can't show in this video because I left it in London, I also do have sock blockers and blocking mats in my kit. Blocking mats are a really nice thing to have, but you can easily substitute it with a yoga mat. If you don't even have that and maybe have a carpet, you can just lie a towel on the floor and then pop your knit on there. Same thing goes for sock blockers. They're really nice to have, but they're not necessary. You can always pin your socks, or as my friend Natty says, feet are the best sock blockers. All right, so it's now time to go through some of the questions that you guys asked me over on Instagram. First question, has content creation influenced the project you choose? Do you feel any pressure to knit more? That's a really good question. So first off, me making these videos and posting on Instagram absolutely does not affect what projects I pick to make. These are the things that I'd be knitting even if I wouldn't be posting anything about them. The knitting content that I post is such a positive outlet for me that it would be the most counterproductive thing to do to choose projects that I actually don't want to do because I have to post about them, you know? In fact, since I've been making my own content, I've been busier and I've had less time to watch as many podcasts as I used to. So I'm actually more encouraged to do my own thing. Of course, this doesn't mean that I will never knit something that's currently trending. If I like it, I will make it, but it's never going to be to please someone else. And do I feel any pressure to knit more? Sometimes I do. I used to way more in the beginning when I had yet to experiment with what content I could put out. The most obvious thing to do would be knitting podcasts where you share your progress with people. If I were only doing knitting podcasts, I would feel a lot of pressure because I'm expected to show new things every episode. But for example, a video like today's, I didn't really have to show you what I've been working on this week, which has not been much because I've not had time to knit. So it's really nice that there are other ways that we can talk about knitting and enjoy our time. And in reality, my videos often work as motivation for me to knit a bit more, but it very rarely feels like toxic pressure, if that makes sense. Are you considering crocheting or knitting your wedding dress in the future? That is such a good question. As of now, as of 2024 Céline, the vision for my wedding dress is different. Doesn't really fit the crocheting or knitting look. So my answer right now would be no, but I would definitely knit accessories or something to go with my wedding attire. I would definitely do a really luxurious mini scarf for the evening, maybe a wrap cardigan if it fits over the sleeves of my wedding dress, or maybe a shawl, very cute. What are your 5 favorite yarns? Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino, Isier Silk Mohair, Camel's Yarn, whichever yarn. I guess if I had to choose one, it'd be Merino DK, Hey Mama Wolf, Skadi, or Mokosh. They're the same thing, they're just different weights. I guess if I had to pick, let's pick the chunkier one, Scatty. If you'll allow me, the fifth one is a yarn combo, which is another question that I've been asked often is what's your favorite yarn combo? It's the Cesia Vivian held with Mistral. It just makes the most luxurious fabric. So yeah, just gonna put that one. What is your favorite style of knitting? I like colorwork, stockinette, knitting in the round. I really enjoy German short rows. They're very satisfying for me for some reason. A lot of you wanted to know what my day job is, what I do for a living, so I guess I'll answer that. I head up the licensing team of a business, and if you don't know what licensing is, long story short, allowing other companies to use our brand on their products. How did you learn to knit? So my mum taught me the knit stitch when I was younger, and then 4 years ago, Stefania, or the Knitting Shura on Instagram and Ravelry, taught me how to read my first pattern. Everything else, all the techniques that I didn't know anything about, YouTube. Did you achieve the goals you set for yourself when you started knitting? Honestly, my only goal was to make a sweater. I don't tend to be very detailed with my goals. I don't think of them too hard. Yeah, I've knit many sweaters, so I did achieve the goals. What are your favorite knitting podcast channels? My go-tos are Handmade by Florence, Knee Knits, Knitterina, We Grow Wild, Orsa Makes, Natasha Crawford, Typical Bliss, and Danish Musings. What's your go-to yarn? Kind of hard to answer this question, so I decided to think of it, okay, when I walk into my favorite shop, what brand do I look at first, or what yarn do I look at first? Always Knitting for Olive, because the color selection is so broad and I really love the fibers, so I would say that's my go-to. Can you show the inside of your Songbird mittens? I don't currently have them with me, but let me scooch so I can put in a clip of that once I'm editing. I'm curious to know, did you want to see these because you're just curious, or is there like a technical reason? Because a lot of people have been asking me this question. So yeah, here they are. I did catch my floats, in case you're wondering. Someone asks if I'm from Italy and why did I move to the UK? Yes, I'm from Italy. I was born and raised in Milan. I lived in Milan for 18 years and then I moved to the UK. And the reason for that is that I went to an English school. Something like 80% of people graduating from that school go study abroad for university, and that's what I did. I actually studied music at university because I sing and yeah, had a band and have played music all my life, so that's what I studied. And now I'm still there because I work there. What do you dislike doing in a garment? I do not enjoy ribbing. I don't like sewn bind-offs, although they look the best and I bind off that way basically all the time. I'm just like, I'm done with my project. Can you just give me a break already? Why do I have to sit here for 6 hours and sew the bind off? What made you start YouTube? So I'm a YouTube kid. I grew up on YouTube. I always joke that 50% of my life skills I learned on YouTube. I remember being 8 years old, being alone in my room and narrating out loud how I was folding my origami. I've also always loved video editing. I think I started when I was 9 or 10. I would just, in my free time, film and edit silly videos at home. In some way, I've been practicing for 15 years, and it took me till now to build up the courage. My favorite thing about growing up is caring less and less about the negative things that people think of me and of what I do. Starting to just do whatever I want to do and doing my own thing is the best thing I could do for myself, and YouTube is one of them. I'm so happy that I finally reached that point. I reached the other side. I've been wanting to do YouTube since I was 8 years old. That's crazy. Actually, now that I think about it, it's crazy. Do your friends and family know about your videos? Absolutely they do. If I didn't tell my close family and friends, I feel like it'd be a bit suspicious because I spend so much time doing this that they'd probably be wondering, what is she up to all that time? Would you rather only use lace weight or super bulky weight yarn? Bulky yarn, because I would get tired of it later than I would with lace weight. Tips and resources for someone who wants to become a knitwear designer. So my favorite thing to recommend to people for this is Sari Nordland's Sweater Chronicles. So it's a series on her YouTube channel that I'll link down below, and it goes through all the essential steps of designing knitwear. So episode 1 is submissions, then we have swatching, grading, pattern writing basics for knitwear design, calculating pattern repeats, how to draw your own knitting charts, and how to calculate yardage. And if that's not a good resource, I don't know what is. I could speak about this for way longer, but I feel like this video is never gonna end if I don't stop it here. Look who it is! Look who came to say hi! Just in time. This is Duda, this is our family dog, and she's very cute. As always, I thank you so much for sticking till the end of the video. I will leave my Instagram on the screen in case you'd like to follow my creations more in real time. I'll say bye for now, and I hope to see you in the next video. Ciao!